Hi, I'm Lisa Moschler, Family Outreach Manager. I use she, her pronouns, and I work in the New Student Services Family Outreach Office at Western Washington University.
Hello, my name is Edward Torres Ochoa. I use he, him pronouns. I work as an assistant resident director for the Widgeway Complex residence halls here at Western. Today we're going to be talking with current Western students who you might also recognize as our orientation student advisors. And we're going to be asking them to reflect and share with us some of their experiences as new students, beginning with, what was something that you didn't know that you needed to talk about before coming here to Western. So that's today's topic. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
And this might exemplify how some could be feeling right now. Unsure of what to ask because there's so much you feel you may not know, or you may not want to ask because maybe you feel that you should already know. Either way, you're not alone, and we're here to tell you that it's absolutely okay to feel this way, especially right now. And no matter what, there's a lot of people at Western who are here for you. So let's meet some of those people and have our current students introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Dora. I'm the new student coordinator for the New Student Services and Family Outreach Office. I work with our OSAs this summer, and this is my first quarter here during the summer with this position.
My name is Kaylin O'Neill. I'm a new orientation student advisor. I'm a junior at Western studying kinesiology and a minor in communications.
Hi, my name is Natalie Van Dormelen. I am a senior this year at Western. I am also an OSA this summer. I'm super happy to be here.
I'm Danny Thomas. My pronouns are she, her. I'm also a senior here at Western. I'm one of the lead orientation student advisors. And yeah, I'm really excited to get started.
Yeah, my name is Alec Bell. I use he, him pronouns. I am a senior here at Western. I'm a theater major, and I am also a lead orientation student advisor this year.
Great, thanks everyone. So who would like to share something that never occurred to you to ask or be interested in, or maybe even curious about because the college experience had been only a concept up until that first day of class?
I can jump in on this one. I think something that I just didn't really realize would be such a huge part of being a new student is just your new level of autonomy when you're in your first year of college. You really step away from either being in your hometown or being away from your parents, and you kind of jump into this new world of you are leading your own life, you're making your own decisions, and with that you can kind of shape the way that you want to be perceived by the world. I found that when I came to Western, there were a lot of like stereotypes and social norms in my hometown that I ended up breaking when I came here, and I ended up discovering a lot of things that were new and very exciting to me that I didn't know I would be interested in. And so I think that's something I didn't really realize is you really get to kind of pave your own pathway in life, and you're not doing things to impress anybody anymore, or you're not joining clubs just to be able to put it on your college resume. You're really doing things that are very that align with what your passions are. For me, that was, I never really got involved with leadership in high school just because it seemed like too overwhelming, or there are already people who had been doing it their whole lives, and so I never really got into it, but been really enjoying taking on new leadership roles and taking leadership classes. It's been really eye-opening for me, and then also just getting really involved in the outdoor community at Western has been really amazing. I didn't really feel like I had that in my hometown. So yeah.
Great, thank you, Kaylin. Anybody else have anything to add?
So our next question is, how did your day-to-day life change as you transitioned to college?
Well, I can start on this question. It changes a whole lot in particular ways, especially moving out from living with my parents and moving to another state. Some daily things, I went from driving most places to taking public transit everywhere I went, because there's a lot of public transit in Bellingham, a lot better than in Alaska, and that was something I had to get used to. Also, living at school was a huge change. You know, it's not like you go to school, because I would go to high school and you're there for, 7 hours a day, and then you come home and then you're done. No, you're always at school. You're interacting with people who are your classmates like all the time because they live around the dorms with you and you see them at the dining hall. So there's no kind of boundary to the socialization that takes place at school. It doesn't stop at 2 o'clock when you go home. It's all day long. You're interacting with your peers, and it's really interesting. You meet a lot different people, especially coming out of kind of a small town. You meet a lot of different people that like you never would have imagined you could meet back home, and that's really cool. But one of the biggest things is that there's nobody like telling you to get your work done. That was kind of the biggest change. Was my parents weren't there to be like, oh, how was school? Did you get your homework done? What's this? What's going on with that? Like, I would have to text them an update to let them know, hey, here's what happened today. And so there was no one saying, hey, go to class. And I had to do all that motivation myself. And I feel like that's one of the hugest changes going from high school to college.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing that. Does anyone else have anything to add? Anything that Danny mentioned that they could relate to in that?
What was one of the ways that you met people? That just kind of struck me in what you were saying. Like, it was new to have to come to a campus from a small town, and like I can imagine that being a really, a big step. So, if you have anything you can recall, what's something that you would do to meet people, maybe to go rally, to go to, the cafeteria, or to go to the dining hall, something like that.
Yeah, well, I'm very social and very outgoing. Because in Alaska, we kind of have this attitude of hospitality. It'd be like, come here, bringing people in, because there's not a lot of people there. So I was just like, wow, there's so many people here. So I would, do my usual strategy, which is, hi, hello, my name's Danny, how are you? Except it was like, I lived in the dorm, so I would walk 5 feet down the hall and be like, hi, hello, how are you? And then most of the friends that I made my freshman year, I met because they lived in my dorm hall, and we would just all kind of congregate in one dorm room and hang out together. And that's how I met most of my friends. And we would hang out in the lounge and just mess around and have a good time.
Nice. I like the direct approach. Well done.
Yeah, definitely something that I'm hearing is, you were very active in that process. Sometimes I believe in the university setting, some things happen kind of organically and naturally, and that's really great. But it's also on to students, I think, to try to take those initial steps, try to get that going sometimes. Anybody else have anything to add?
I wanted to contribute to that a little bit. As a transfer student, it was really difficult coming here and living off campus and wondering how I was going to be able to make those connections when I wasn't living in a dorm. But it definitely requires you to kind of take those steps and step out of your comfort zone and talk to people in classes and invite yourself to things. People do it all the time. It's not like, never be ashamed to do that. Going to clubs is super helpful. Reaching out to people that you know from high school. There are people that I totally disconnected from in high school that went here, and so I reconnected with them and got introduced to their friend groups. So it can be very scary, but there's always ways to get connected to people to try.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's like we got a lot of good perspectives here.
Sure.
Our next question is, what is something you wish you would have discussed with your family ahead of or earlier in your transition to Western during your first quarter?
Yeah, I think what I definitely learned, especially was talking to my mom about making this big transition into, college life, is that if you have an interest in something, or if you have an interest in a class or a meeting or a group, or kind of like we mentioned earlier, like clubs and stuff, if you have that interest, the best thing is do not hesitate, for sure. Try to get involved as much as you can, as early as you can. I remember I was super interested in these clubs and these departments that, I thought would be really cool, but I was kind of nervous because I didn't know super much about them. And even though I wanted to get involved, I didn't know if I'd fit in very well. And I remember having conversation with my mom about that. And she just goes, oh, just wait it out and see how it goes and maybe it'll come on. And I waited way too long. And by the time I wanted to get involved with my department, by the end of fall quarter, there were people that had already become super cool friends and were on a first name basis with like professors and other people. And meanwhile, I had to struggle, remembering just people's names, even though I had a ton of classes. So I think the best thing to do is, don't wait for those opportunities. And if you have an interest in something, definitely just take a chance and go for it. And you'll meet a lot of cool people along the way. And especially with classes, if you have an interest in the class, definitely just go for it and take it if you want to. And meet with your professors early on. Definitely do not wait until, the end of the quarter when, grades are coming in and all that stuff. When you have a good connection with that professor and they put a face to a name, it definitely makes the process a lot easier. And they definitely also appreciate, you speaking to them and you getting to know them and, them wanting to get to know you. And it'll definitely help you along the way. So yeah, don't wait, for sure.
Yeah, Alec, I totally relate to, being excited to get involved, but not really sure where to start. And I came from a home as an only child with a single mom, first generation to university. And so this was really exciting, specifically for me to get involved. I've always loved to be involved in the community, and I knew Western had that community and many that I could explore. But my family was really nervous for us to go to university, not for me to go to college, but for us to be apart. For mom and I to not be together is the first time ever. And going off, if you're transitioning to Bellingham, your families will be excited for you, but also nervous. And they've been involved your entire life, and without that involvement every day and being there for you to cheer you on like it's always been, you're not as close as you always were, but you share those experiences when you connect. Like Danny was saying, that she would text her parents every day what's going on. You're gaining those experiences away from your family, and it actually in a weird way brings you closer because they feel like they're experiencing it with you too. Because my mom and I always joke that we're going to university together. We're on this journey as a team, even though she's 3.5 hours away. So it's good to make your big world seem a bit smaller when you have a little bit of home with you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Did anyone else have anything else to add? All right, Lisa, I think we can go on to our fourth and final question today.
And final, yes, indeed. So knowing what you know now, what's something you would do differently to prepare yourself and your family for your first fall quarter at Western?
Yeah, I can answer this one. I love this question just because I've thought about so many things that I could have done so differently coming to Western, and it really aligns with what everyone else has said today is get ready to be uncomfortable. Things are going to be uncomfortable, but embrace that. And it's normal. It's so easy to feel like, going to something alone is weird or abnormal, when in reality, so many people are, trying things out for the first time or going to things alone. And we just live in this place where it's weird to, try things out by yourself, but really that's awesome. And you should absolutely do that, because my first quarter at Western, I wanted to go try things or try a club. I was like, oh, well, I don't really have anyone to go with. So oftentimes, like Alec was saying, he'd wait and then, he'd miss that opportunity. And that was my truth as well. And I was just feeling sad for myself when really that shouldn't have been happening. So it took me until about my late sophomore, junior year to really start getting into things. But don't make my mistake. Go get into things. And I think the biggest takeaway is that when you do get involved in things, they open doors to things that you could have never imagined could have happened. So many of the greatest things that have come out of Western for me are things that I wasn't even looking for, or just kind of, fell at my feet. And it's really exciting when that happens. And it's because, you got into other things that, opened doors and led to other paths. And it's really, really exciting. So I guess just normalizing going out, being uncomfortable, getting ready to just, hunker down and do it, because chances are there's going to be so many other people in the same boat as you. And it's really easy to feel alone at college when you're, just transitioning and you don't really know anyone yet. But, and you look out your window and there's just like huge mob of people all hanging out together. And you're like, well, how are they meeting people so quickly? But that's just one story you see. There's so many other stories behind the scenes that, you aren't seeing, that are going through the same thing as you. So just that, and, you're not alone, and just go for it. Just do it. I love Western saying to make waves, and it's so true. Just go and do it and be you. And the other thing is normalizing if you don't like what you tried, and that's okay, then go try something else. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, and something I wish I would have been a little bit more brave in my first year.
And did you share that with your family as well? Did you share like how you're approaching it, and what was some of their response to that? Were they?
I was like, I did. And I talked to my mom a lot my freshman year. She was kind of my go-to when I was sad or just, struggling or having a hard time. And she's like, well, go try this or go try this. And I'd always be like, but you don't get it. Like, I have to go do this alone. And she's like, but really instilled a lot of confidence in me. And that was a boost I needed to finally go try things. And she was so encouraging with that to me. I remember specifically the outdoor center has events that they do for students, and I signed up for some of those, and it was great. And she's like, just go do it. It's okay if you don't know anyone. So I will always be thankful to her for that, just pushing me to be my best and all of that. So yeah, super open to talking to that about me. And yeah, it was good. She pushed me harder, and it was good. But definitely a little bit of back and forth there, because I felt like she wasn't understanding, but I knew at the end of the day, she just really wanted to be there for me. That's another thing. Just talk to your parents. We all want to be independent, but at the end of the day, they're some of your best allies. So I think that's important.
Thank you.
Yeah, echoing a lot of what Natalie said and kind of what I said earlier. Just do not be afraid to put yourself out there and, just make yourself known. Again, if you do find something interesting, you got to take that leap, and, you'll eventually meet some really cool people that have a lot of the same interests as you. I think one of the biggest things about Western is that it is so community driven, and there is always a little something for everybody. And, you're going to find somebody who has a lot of the same interest as you, or, maybe wanting to try something different or something new, and somebody else may be wanting to do the exact same thing. And so you can really build those connections easily. Introducing yourself, whether it be, new clubs and stuff. And especially with professors, again, they are your biggest allies during, this whole process. Again, having a face to a name is so helpful to them, and they definitely will help you later on when, you're having a class that you're struggling with, or, you have a little question about this stuff, and they know you by name. They're like, yeah, let's go through it and all that. And so, yeah, just introducing yourself. And that was definitely a big thing for me, because I'm always, I have a little social awkward anxieties, so it's always hard for me to introduce myself to new people. But, once I branched out of my little cocoon, like, man, I just made so many more friends, and I figured out a lot of people have the same interests as me, and I got more involved with my department. And, once you start building those friendships and building those, connections, it'll be incredibly beneficial later down the line, and it will help you out, as years to come. So yeah, definitely making yourself known, trying out new things if they seem interesting, and yeah, just being as much as a social butterfly as you can.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to approach it, whether it's through your academic program or through some of the other activities through the outdoor center. Or there's just so many different ways that we have to connect and to engage and just see what fits for you, and you do you, right? And don't forget about those office hours with your professors, because yeah, there's no time like the present, it sounds like, to really get in touch with them and yeah, make yourself known. So gosh, it's a great conversation. Thank you guys so much today. And
Did anyone have anything else to share?
I wanted to share something really quick, touching on like the family note and talking to your parents about things. I have 2 older brothers, and so my dad kind of had an expectation for like how my college life should look and how it's going to look, and my college life kind of ended up looking nothing like theirs so far. And I think him and I really struggled with the communication aspect of that. Like I would call him and tell him what classes I was taking, and he would be like, well, why aren't you taking these classes? Aren't you supposed to be taking this? Aren't you supposed to be doing this club? And I was like, well, no, Dad, like I haven't figured out. I know what I'm doing. And there have been a few times when I've kind of had to sit down with him and tell him, like, this is my plan, and this is what I know I'm doing right, and how can we talk about this and have like constructive conversation so that both of our needs are being met, and kind of just like reassuring your parents that you know what you're doing, because I think it's really scary for them when you go off and they used to have control and now they have no control, and it can be really difficult for them, I think, to just see their kids and not know what they're up to and not know what their plan is. And so I think I definitely had to learn how to communicate with him, and now we're on like super good terms with everything, and he's super excited for me and we get to share in that excitement. And but it definitely took almost a year of like communicating and being open and honest with each other and proving to him that I was on the right track and that it's okay if me and my brother's journeys look totally different. So yeah, I just wanted to share that it's okay if your parents aren't always the most supportive. Just be sure to communicate with them, and they will always come around. They just want the best for you. So that's my little 2 cents on
Yeah,
that.
thanks for sharing that. I think you hit on a lot of really good points where, I think your folks sometimes want to make sure that you're doing things right, or that, they have a perceived notion of what things should look like, but you all are the ones here doing it, so you know what's best for your own academic journey. So yeah, thanks for sharing that piece. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, Kaylin and Natalie kind of made me think about this realization I came to my freshman year. Despite being an extrovert, I spent a lot of time alone at college, and that's something that a lot of people come in not expecting. You do have a lot more time by yourself, but also that's not something to be afraid of. You should like embrace that alone time and be with yourself, and even like you might get to know yourself a little more than you had before because you have that opportunity, because college is more of an individual journey than really any schooling has been up to that point. So really just getting okay with, existing in a space and just being by yourself can be really, honestly, it was one of the most helpful things that I realized was, oh, I can just go and do things alone, and that's fine. And who knows, even if you're shy, you might run into an extrovert like me who'll come in and adopt you and just be like, hi, how you doing? What's your name? So just being okay with being alone, but also being open to experiences and really doing what you want to do, and not like holding yourself to others' expectations. It's college is about really finding out what you want to do with your life, and to really use that time, even if you're scared, like, oh, I don't have any friends or anything, like you can set alone time, and that can still be very helpful on your college experience.
Yeah, a lot of great insight being shared today. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything to offer or to share? Okay, all right. Well, I didn't want to jump ahead, but that looks like it's all the time we have for today. And we want to thank all of you, our current students, for sharing your stories with us. And we invite you at home to start or maybe continue some of these conversations with your families. And we hope you join us again for one of our next episodes. And in the meantime, take care. And once again, welcome to Western.